Well, good morning, everybody. Saturday morning. I didn't get a lot done this week because I had to travel for work 3 days. But I'm home now, and I'll be home for the next 3 weeks, so hopefully I can get a little bit of stuff done in the evenings and on weekends. I want to show you, I've got my staging yards hooked up. So I'm actually going to run a train from staging yard to staging yard and back. And I'm not going to do an operating session, show you all the moves and all that, but I'm going to sort of simulate what an operating session would be like, what I'm going to do. So I'll be running a train, from the north end staging yard. I'll go to Oak Hill. I'll move the cars around by hand off camera, but I'll sort of describe what I did. Then I'll run the train to the south end staging yard, swap the cars out for the cars that were there yesterday, then come back through Oak Hill, switch through Manning Industries, and then go back to the north end staging. That's the way I envision the layout operating. So I'll sort of simulate that for you today. Also going to reflect back on the trip I took last Sunday, talk a little bit about my plans, what I learned for the Chillicothe Yard office, and also I'm going to talk a little bit about the brick collecting just at the very end. I know most of you aren't interested in brick collecting, but just to give you a brief description of it and how I got interested in it anyhow, but I promise it'll be very short. So let's get started. Before we get started, I want to make one little correction. I said it sometime like there would be a turn out of Chillicothe run to Wellston. And that was true, and that turn out of Chillicothe did all the switching in Wellston. The Portsmouth branch line, they would park the engine in Wellston at night and leave the cars there. The next morning they would run to Hamden, Ohio, exchange cars, and then they would go back through Wellston to Jackson, Oak Hill, and all that, but they never did any switching in Wellston at all. That was all done by the turn out of Chillicothe. So just wanted to correct that. It's good to have friends that know all this stuff. This is Aaron Cohen, and his father was a DT&I signal maintainer. And luckily for him, he was able to travel around with him, and they did a lot of rail fanning together. A lot of great memories, but he was able to straighten that out for me. And these are the connectors I used for my staging yard. I think they're the same type they used to use for N-Track. I don't know if they still do or not, because they're made by Radio Shack. I don't know if Radio Shack's still in business. I think Archer was the brand name on them. But my friend Fran Tisserero had some extra ones for when he used to be in N-Track, and he gave me these. And they should work very well. I got those all hooked up yesterday, and that way I can easily disconnect the layout in just a second, or the staging yard in just a second, in order to store it. The train is coming into Oak Hill. Just left Jackson. We're heading south out of the northbound staging yard. The last two cars ahead of the caboose are going off layout, destination south of Oak Hill. So we're pulling into the passing siding here when we come into town. And we're going to uncouple the last two cars and the caboose and leave them on the main line. Then we're going to switch Cedar Heights Clay after that. So there's two 70-ton hoppers and that rail box are going to Cedar Heights Clay. So I'll do that off camera. I'm done switching Cedar Heights Clay. I spotted them back on the passing siding. Now I'm pulling forward with the engine, and I'm going to back down and pick up the cars for South Webster or Knock & Sons, whatever customers down there need those two cars. And from my research, my friends tell me that they got a lot of N&W, Southern Pacific cars down there for whatever reason. So I'm backing down to get them. After I couple up, I'll be leaving Oak Hill, heading to the south staging yard. I need to clean the track. Still a little dirty from all the work I've been doing on it. Engine sort of hesitates here. lurches a little bit when it's back behind the cars. You may not notice it. You see the two full gons that I have to switch when I come back into Oak Hill. And those two box cars are at the brick factory, and we'll pick those up on the way back through. We'll switch out. So we're heading into south staging. At this point, south staging, I will manually lift off the two cars and replace them with two cars that are sitting on top of the file cabinet. So all that's done. So now we're coming back north into Oak Hill. And we'll switch the brick factory. We're going to pick up those two box cars and drop off one box car. And then at the scrap, Charrington scrap, we're going to pick up two loaded gondolas and drop off one empty. No runarounds are necessary. Now, if I didn't have any business south of Oak Hill, I'd have to do a runaround. Okay. Now we're going to switch out those industries. So you can see the Davis Fire Brick has been switched out. Now has one box car. And there's an empty gondola at Charrington Scrap. Train's all put back together. It's actually a little bit longer than what I came into town with, but that's just the way it is. So now I'm going to head back north, back through Jackson. And Jackson, I'll stop and pick up any cars. Actually, I'll stop and pick up any cars along the way that I left. So when I get back to Wellston, I may have 20 or 30 cars. Staging yard won't quite hold all of it. This is probably about the longest train I'm going to run, I would imagine. But hopefully this gives you an idea of what the operations will be like. So let's talk about the Chillicothe Yard Office for a minute. I can't remember who made this building. It's pre-assembled. It wasn't this color. I painted it to look more like the real Chillicothe Yard Office. But when I saw it online, I thought, man, that's going to be a perfect stand-in. I had no idea if it seemed like it was close to the right size. So I got it. I painted it up. I added the air conditioners to it. And I think it's a pretty cool model. I added that sidewalk to it, around it. But turns out it's almost the perfect dimensions. Counting the blocks, like I said I was going to do, and also using Google Earth, I think the real building is about 50 feet by 20 feet. And so, yeah, the only thing I don't like about it is the windows and the door arrangements. So after this, I'm going to show you a picture that I took last week of the real building, and then it'll show you the picture of the model. So I think if I can probably use the roof, and I have a couple kits coming from Deluxe Innovations. So between that and the roof, and also I think I can use this Evergreen Scale Models metal siding. I think I can come up with a pretty good model of it. Again, this is a perfect stand-in building. It's a really nice building. But when your layout, I read something with there's a fear of completing your layout. Some people don't want to admit it, like, what do I do when I get done with this layout? Well, luckily I have another layout to work on. But, some people don't really want to complete their layout, I guess, because they don't know what to do. And me, I'm just going to tear it down and build another one eventually. But I'm working on this one for now. But you can always go back and improve things. I always intended to replace this building with a better model of it. This was just a stand-in building until I was able to do that. So now I'm going to do it. So I'll keep you posted on that. I'm going to start working on that. I've got a couple of those Deluxe Innovation kits coming. When I get those in, I'll sit down at the workbench, figure out what I need to do, and I'll start working on that. So let me show you now how the real building looks compared to this one. North side of the real building. And here's the current model. It's the east side of the real building. West side of the real building compared to the model. And last will be the south side of the real building, which I couldn't get a straight on picture of. And this would be facing away from you on the layout, so it's really not that big a deal, to be honest with you. Here's a picture of them lining the tunnel that I visited last week with brick. How many millions of bricks do you think are actually in this thing? They're 5 thick. This is the Brickyard in 1947. It still has the beehive kilns in it, which were torn down for the era I'm modeling. Notice the machine shop on the right. It has 8 windows and has that funny roof. I guess that was where smoke would go. So I'm pretty sure they tore down that whole building and redid it. So I'm going to model it the way it was in 1980. Here's the Brickyard in the 70s. Notice the machine shop is quite a bit different. It only has 5 windows on the end. Now it has that loading dock, which it didn't have before. This is how I'm going to model it. Also notice there are like 6 or 7 boxcars on that loading dock. So they shipped a lot of bricks out of that place. I can't model that whole length. And here's what it looks like now. I'm not going to model it this rundown. These cardboard cutouts are pretty much the scale. The warehouse is what I've got labeled there. That's actually a scale, in-scale version of it. So I'm going to have to make that a little bit smaller, definitely, because I won't have any room at all in the back to do anything else. May make it the same length, but the width I'm going to shorten it up a little bit. And for the covered dock, you see I can hold about 3 boxcars, and I probably will make it the same length as this. But there's no way that I can scale that whole area. So my thoughts are to make the warehouse a little bit narrower, put the kilns behind it, and the tall structure that you saw in the video will be on the backdrop, just a low relief thing on the backdrop. That's where they actually ground the clay up. When you get clay in, of course it's chunky, and they put additives in it, things like that. This place made fire bricks, was their main product. So they have a clay grinding before they prep the clay before they can mold it into the bricks, and it goes into the kilns. So that's my plans. Just got to get started on it. Okay, as promised, here's a real quick brick tutorial. 2 blocks on the left here, those are pavers. Millions of them in city streets. You drive over them. Almost every town of any size had brick streets. That's what's underneath the blacktop now. You don't see this because they're actually like this, side by side. That's what you see. But pull them out when they do construction, anything like that, then you'll find out who actually made them. So those are the collectible ones, the ones that have writing on them. And there are thousands and thousands of variations. They also made what they call sidewalk pavers, which are like this, but they're thinner because people walking on sidewalks don't put as much pressure on them. This is a fire brick. Fire bricks are made out of a special type of clay because they can handle really high temperatures. These would line kilns. They would be in fireboxes of steam locomotives. The steel industry used millions and millions of these things. You can use them to build stuff with too. You can build buildings out of them, but they were supposedly made to handle high temperature. Really like this one because I found it in Oak Hill. It says Oak Hill on it. This is a common building brick. Most of these today, they don't have any markings on them. This is a relatively modern one, and this company actually did stamp it on us, so I picked it up. Now, brick collecting, if it's just a plain brick, people don't even pick it up. They call those vanillas. You know, they're not collected. But you know, these ones with writing, they're not worth any money. There are some real rare ones, like in 1918, Spanish flu. They made ones that says "Do not spit on sidewalk," because that's how they thought it might be spread, and so those are worth a lot of money. They're collectible. When I say a lot of money, I mean a couple $100. It's not like a Mickey Mantle baseball card for $5 million. These things are not worth much money. If you buy a pallet of old bricks, say you want to do your driveway or something, you'll pay maybe 60 cents a brick, $1 a brick, something like that. So it's not a money-making venture at all. We dig them out. We go to where a brick factory used to be. We dig with not more like a pry bar or something. I guess you don't want to like break them. We go to city dump, Portsmouth, Ohio. They dump their bricks on the riverbank anytime they do any road work, and you can go sort through the refuse and find stuff like this. Union Paver Sciotoville. Those are the ones at the tunnel. The tunnel probably has a million of those. I did not take one from the tunnel. It's National Forest. It's illegal, but I already had one, so I didn't need one. Might have been tempted if it was something real rare, but I didn't take one from the tunnel, and I didn't take one from any restoration projects. All the depots that I went to, that I showed you, they all had Athens block on the platforms, and they were so you could read them. So that's pretty cool, you know. But I would never, you know, steal a brick from some place like that, you know, that was a historic place. So there's all kinds of variations. There's people that have thousands and thousands and thousands of bricks. It's like anything else, any other type of collecting, you know. Once you get hooked on collecting something, you want everything, you know. I'm going to focus on fire bricks in Southern Ohio. Is going to be my focus, anyhow. So anyhow, that's more than you want to know about brick collecting, and I hope this taught you a little bit more about it. And actually, I forgot the best thing about brick collecting. Well, not only is it cheap, you can keep them outside. So if your wife says, you can't bring anything else into this house, get too much junk, hey, you can keep them outside. You see, I've lined my garden railroad. When I fill this up, I can go around this edge over here. I can go all the way around the fence. If I get enough, maybe I'll build a patio out of them someday. So if you have any questions about it, let me know. Have any questions about anything, let me know. I appreciate all the comments and feedback. I've gotten a lot of help from a lot of people, suggestions and where to buy things. Maurice Grimes told me where to buy those deluxe innovation kits. And by the way, I think they're out of business, but I think they sold their molds and tooling to Fox Valley Models, so maybe you can still get them through them eventually. But I checked on their website, and that update in May of 2019 said they are closed, even though their website is still active, but they're not making any more stuff. So everybody stay safe.